Today we got two immensely powerful beings going head to head. Doctor Strange versus Swamp Thing. Who wins? Well, let's find out. Dr. Stephen Strange was once a gifted but egotistical surgeon who sought out the Ancient One to heal his hands after they were wounded in a car accident. Instead, the Ancient One trained him to become master of the mystic arts and the Sorcerer Supreme of Earth. Now, being the master of the mystic arts and the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange is obviously one of the most powerful sorcerers in the world. He uses mystical energy invoked by spells or incantations that allow him to project mystical energy as bolts, slashes, binds, or shields. He can manipulate the forces of the universe, manipulate matter in various forms of energy, and transmute and control elements. Doctor Strange can also open or seal portals to other realms, teleport or travel through dimensions, and he's even demonstrated control over dimensions and reality. He can turn intangible and invisible, project himself into the astral plane, communicate with the dead, manipulate dreams, summon supernatural beings, and he's demonstrated vast mental capabilities like telepathy and telekinesis. Doctor Strange can also channel the virtually limitless power of mystical and non mystical beings, which has given rise to the saying that Doctor Strange is just as powerful as the god that he invokes. For instance, he's been able to call upon the powers of Sidorak, Agamotto, and Hogeth before. He's also quite capable of utilizing black magic, although Strange tends to do so under the most extreme circumstances. Then he also has a formidable arsenal of magical artifacts, most notably the Eye of Agamotto and the Cloak of Levitation. The cloak functions as sort of a third set of hands for Strange, allowing him to entangle opponents, fly, and levitate. It's also virtually indestructible and has shielded him from attacks before. Then the Eye of Agamotto is an artifact with many different uses, such as vastly enhancing his psychic powers, and allows for interdimensional travel. It serves as a protective talisman, and is also an irresistible offensive weapon. But in the other corner, we got Swamp Thing. Botanist Alec Holland became the avatar of the Green, known as the Swamp Thing, following his death in a swamp as a result of a horrific accident. With the ability to control any form of plant life, Swamp Thing uses his powers to protect both the human and the plant worlds. The Swamp Thing has complete mastery over all forms of plant life, and can command vegetation to do his bidding. With this power, he's in constant communication with the very essence of the earth, and serves as the plant elemental for the whole planet. He can cause spontaneous plant growth anywhere in his vicinity, can take on the attributes of any plant, like a cactus, shrink down to a microscopic size, or grow to an absolutely immense size. He can summon forth vines in order to entangle opponents, and these vines have even managed to restrain Superman. Swamp Thing is even able to grow fully functioning wings made out of leaves, and has the ability to fly. He can elongate his limbs, create swords and shields. He's even forced mass algae growth across the world, and since it absorbed the majority of the oxygen, he knocked out the world's population. Swamp Thing is physically strong enough to restrain and injure Superman, and easily take on Aquaman. He's also taken attacks of Superman and a pissed off Wonder Woman. The most important thing to remember, though, is that Swamp Thing houses his conscious mind inside of a body made up of vegetation, and so, at will, he can abandon this host and take up residence in another shell. Even if the body that he's currently in is destroyed, his mind lives on, and will just reconstitute itself in a new swamp form. Because of this, he can also inhabit and control multiple forms at the same time. And, theoretically, as long as there's some bit of plant life remaining on Earth, Swamp Thing can always have a vehicle to house his consciousness, making him essentially immortal. So who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now, what I really like about this fight is that both of these heroes have an insane amount of powers and abilities. They can do basically anything, everything, and then even more. Now, I don't really see this fight coming down to a physical confrontation, just because they both have so many powers and abilities that they can exploit. But if it did come down to a close quarters combat, Swamp Thing definitely wins. I mean, he's massively powerful. He's restrained and injured Superman, knocked out Etrigan the Demon with one punch, and he's taken blows from Wonder Woman and Superman. Swamp Thing's body is also composed out of 100% organic material, and he has complete control over this body. Because of this, he's able to regenerate from basically any attack. As even when the Anti-Monitor destroyed his body, his consciousness remained alive. Since he doesn't have a physical body, he's able to almost instantly regrow himself a new body, and can even transfer his consciousness to plant life on a distant planet. He's omnipresent wherever plant life is present, and can alter his size, ranging from microscopic levels to growing larger than an island. So, yeah, Swamp Thing definitely wins a physical confrontation. But this isn't going to be a physical fight. And even that's what it turns into, Doctor Strange is able to create immensely powerful shields, and has an insane level of durability. He survived planetary destruction several times, has shown no real problem withstanding supernovas. His shields have repeatedly stood up to attacks from Dormammu, Mephisto, and Satanish in their own realms, and he even started an entire dimension tearing itself to shreds. Really, if Doctor Strange is focusing with his shields, no physical attack from Swamp Thing is getting through that. And if that wasn't enough, Doctor Strange has shown that he can project himself into the astral plane, where no physical attack can injure him. He's also shown that he's able to keep going without a physical body, and simply reconstitute it later. One of the more recent instances of this happening was when he reconstituted both his and Spider-Man's physical forms from outside of space and time, after a spell Strange was trying to use to scatter Dormammu's essence throughout space and time misfired. Doctor Strange also has some powerful physical attacks of his own, like his energy beams. He's easily one-shotted the Hulk and Heralds of Galactus, and effortlessly destroyed moons and living planets. But like I've been saying from the beginning, really don't see this fight coming down to a close combat situation, just because they both have so many other powers, and Strange really doesn't fight hand to hand very often. So, what else can Swamp Thing and Doctor Strange do? Well, Swamp Thing is able to quickly grow multiple new bodies. He turned Gotham City into a vibrant forest in seconds. He's turned a man into a tree using the salad that he'd eaten for lunch, and took out John Constantine using the flora in his gut. He can teleport by degeneration and then regenerating somewhere else, and can forcibly teleport others along with him. He's forced his way into the afterlife, broken through magical barriers, ripped souls out of bodies, and is capable of altering people's chemical balances in their brain. He can fuse with people and alter their vibrational frequency, can exist wherever there is plant life, and has even absorbed the entirety of the green into himself before. So, yeah, Swamp Thing has a ton of powers to use in this fight, and try and take down Doctor Strange. But the question is, will these attacks actually be effective against Strange. Because for as many ways as Swamp Thing has to attack him, Strange has just as many ways to defend himself from those attacks. Like, let's say that Swamp Thing manages to restrain Strange with vines, or actually impales him and surrounds him inside of a tree like it did against Etrigan the Demon. Well, Strange could teleport, phase through the object, project himself onto the astral plane and remove his body, and that's just scratching the surface. And for that stuff, Strange doesn't even need to move or use his hands. Or say that Swamp Thing tries to manipulate the fauna in Strange's stomach, or something like that. I mean, he's done it to John Constantine, so could he do it to Doctor Strange as well? That's kinda up in the air. Because while Constantine is a very powerful magician, even stating he's a tier 4 sorcerer, first and foremost, he's a detective, an investigator into the occult. And because of that, he doesn't have as strong as defenses as Doctor Strange. On the other hand, Doctor Strange always has magical shields, and they protect him from a whole lot more than just straight up physical attacks. In fact, they've actually protected him from similar attacks in the past. Then, like we mentioned earlier, Strange can still do things like phasing through objects, or projecting himself into the astral plane. Really, for Swamp Thing being as powerful as he is, and having as many abilities as he does, a lot of them are just physical attacks, and Strange can easily counter them and defend himself. Now, Swamp Thing does have some metaphysical attacks, like his telepathy, or the ability to rip souls from bodies. But even then, Doctor Strange has counters for those as well. For starters, his telepathy is absolutely insane, and actually one of Strange's favorite methods for dealing with any type of enemy. With the Eye of Agamotto, an extremely powerful mystical artifact, he took down House of M Scarlet Witch, and even resisted telepathic attacks from Adam Warlock with the Mind Gem, and actually the whole Infinity Gauntlet. In fact, people's minds are such a playground for Doctor Strange that he'll simply send people to a realm where they're forced to battle against their own mind. And he's trapped the whole New Avengers team, including Sentry, in a powerful illusion. And Swamp Thing has only manipulated souls of very basic people. And he's never gone up against someone as powerful as Strange, or someone with as much control over his own soul as Doctor Strange has. Basically, Swamp Thing isn't able to contend with Doctor Strange in this regard. But while Doctor Strange can defend himself from virtually all of Swamp Thing's attacks, can Strange actually put down Swamp Thing? Because Swamp Thing, he's connected to the green, and so he's shown that he can regenerate from essentially any and every attack. Even if his body is destroyed, he doesn't need a physical form, and can just grow a new body. You'd actually have to destroy all plant life in order to kill Swamp Thing. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that Swamp Thing is unbeatable. In fact, one of the simplest ways to take him down is just to sever his connection with the green itself. And we've seen John Constantine do this, beating Swamp Thing. Constantine has also forced Swamp Thing to sleep with a touch, cast a magical protective shield that held up against a Black Lantern Swamp Thing, and he's even teleported inside the green, and could potentially battle it from inside. And with Doctor Strange being a more powerful sorcerer than Constantine, he could potentially do all of the same things. In fact, Doctor Strange has even taken down and killed an elemental avatar a lot like Swamp Thing, meaning that he was connected to a larger source as well, like the green, except this being focused on water instead of plants. Basically, Swamp Thing doesn't have a clear way to beat Strange. While Doctor Strange has basically every advantage in this fight, Doctor Strange wins. But what do y'all think? I would love to hear your thoughts. So sign off in the comments down below. Also, be sure to subscribe button. More videos just one every single weekday. And I'll see you next time.